Every country has its stereotypical people, and New Zealand is no different. Apparently, the New Zealand men are big and strong and just go hunting and fishing all day, and the women can do anything and cook anything and do brilliant things. But how true is this?
You know, the other day when you went down to the pub with your friend talking about emotional things, is it true that you both ordered a pina colada?
So let's go over and find out if the world's view of New Zealand's stereotypical people is actually right.
It's a Drama, coming to you from Taranaki, New Zealand.
Hello.
Daddy, I love him.
Mother thanks you.
Right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Hello and welcome to the It's a Drama podcast. I'm Liz.
And I'm Brian.
And today we're going to be talking about stereotypical Kiwi people. Yeah, so if you haven't been to the channel before, we're Liz and Brian, husband and wife. We talk about all things New Zealand, about travel, about living in New Zealand, moving to New Zealand.
Struggling to travel at the moment with all the restrictions, but hopefully soon we'll be able to get back in the plane.
And that's why we're sort of digging into life in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And so many people ask us, you know, it's a fascinating subject, isn't it? Oh, what are New Zealand people like? Is it true New Zealand people are like So we're like, let's write all those things down. I went on the internet and I found out some really, things that people tend to say New Zealand people are like, and we're just going to dive into them and see if they're true.
See where we end up.
Get this, right? The stereotypical New Zealand male, right, is essentially a pioneer type. He is rural, unintellectual, strong, unemotional, democratic, has little time for high culture, good with animals, especially horses, and machines, and he is able to turn his hand at anything. Right. I got this off the internet, by the way.
Yeah. So that just wipes out a quarter of the population who live in Auckland, doesn't it?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
They're rural. Yeah.
It says, this type of man is often assumed to be a unique product of New Zealand's colonial period, but he shares similarities, Bri, with American frontiersmen and Australian bushmen. What about that? You often walk around the streets in New Zealand and you just see these big bushmen walking around.
That's it, with corks swinging from their hats and things like that,
But what do you think about those things? What do you think about unintellectual, rural? That's not true.
Well, that's mostly of Australia then, isn't
No,
it?
we're talking about New Zealand. No, we're talking about New Zealand. This isn't nothing to do with Australia. It's New Zealand.
Yeah.
So rural, what about that?
Well, that's what it means. It's that sort of farmery type of person,
I'm sort of getting this impression of a guy in his
his red bands.
Yeah, his red bands and his stubbies. Like they're like little shorts in New Zealand and like really short.
Like he's just come off the rugby pitch shorts.
Yeah. And just that impression of like hunting and fishing jumper on and just big man.
Well, it's funny, Colin, our farmer that used to live here, that was what you class as that sort of person, wasn't it,
Do you think now living in New Zealand and of all the men that you come across, do you think that sums up a New Zealand man?
Well, yeah, because...
Strong, unemotional, Bri.
Yeah, when I first came here, I'd never been to New Zealand before I moved to New Zealand. And so you're constantly looking to think, what sort of person are they? Because the only New Zealanders that I ever met were like surfers, weren't they?
Yeah,
so, they're on their OEs and they were surfing. They were either working, for the local life-saving club or whatever it was, as a lifeguard. And they're the only few Kiwis that you ever met. And the others were all in London drinking in bars. So I suppose when you think about it...
With a bush hat on?
Well, not with bush hats, no, just absolutely getting hammered.
Don't that you're ruining it now because that's let's not talk about that. So when you came to New Zealand and you were mixing with men on your site, did you think, these men are what I was expecting, or did you think? Oh.
Do you know what? The first few building sites I went on, I remember working at the local sort of technical college. We were converting a top floor of a big block into nursing training, and some of the guys that were there were like 6'6" and the shorts on. Big guys, and they were quite intimidating, as in, you felt like, shit, I'm here with these big boys now, and not all little scousers walking around. Yeah.
And did they look like big bushmen? I must admit, New Zealand men, and I don't want to be like, this is just whatever that word is, where you tar everyone with the same brush, whatever that word. What's that word called? When you, generalize.
Yes.
But they are big.
Some of them are big guys.
Especially the Māori guys are like huge, aren't they?
You can see the guys who play rugby because they're biggest guys, aren't they? Like, you can just see that, that's what they've done in all the growing up at school and things like that is that teamwork in a rugby team. And they're all walking with limps and things like that. But,
The other thing they've sort of like got this thing about people say is they're all hard men, like, because they're all like big and like tough and like got legs like, like not like Brian's little, Scouser legs or anything, but it's just, and there is this impression that they are big, tough, hard men. Well, what did that say? Unemotional. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true at all.
That is true because I've got a guy I was working with as well in a project not that long ago, just quite close to where we live here, and he was your typical New Zealand bushman.
Yes.
He would go hunting, and he'd spend 3 days in the bush and come back with a deer, and he's dragged it. This, I don't know, 200-pound deer or whatever it is. In weight, that is, on his shoulders through the bush for a day, with only his hat on, and getting eaten by sandflies from the South Island.
And what about him? But
he had a hard shell to him, but probably one of the most emotional people I have ever met.
Yeah.
You could give him a hug, he'd give you a hug back, and it's just, and he would cry at the drop of a hat.
Oh, would he?
He would, but he was such a lovely guy.
Yeah, emotional.
Yeah,
in touch with his feelings.
You felt solid with him, and it just, but he was this bushman hunter.
Yeah.
But if someone, even if you didn't know them, someone had been in an accident and died, you could see him physically get upset for those people and his family and stuff, like,
So we can put a big fat cross against unemotional then.
Yeah, they're not unemotional at all.
I don't think so.
I think there's a hardness that you sort of portray from the generations gone by, but I think nowadays, I don't know, it's okay to be in touch with yourself like that, because you're not out on the farm getting absolutely hammered with the rain and the weather and everything.
No,
that's what you call as a hard man, someone who can just keep going. That's what I've always classed as a hard man.
Would you say you are a hard man?
No. Yeah, but
at least give it a little bit of thought. Don't just sit there in front of your wife and just say no.
Yeah, but what do you class as hard? Going around
you
brawling?
Can keep going, Brian.
Yeah, but you can.
I don't mean that. But it's just like, what I'm saying is when you put your mind to a task, you keep going through and getting it done.
Yeah, you do the job, because again, it's just no one else is going to help you, or no one else is going to do you. So you just keep going, like,
Yep.
I don't know. It's just, I think it's that stereotypical thing as you portray as this male who can do all these things, like, and realistically, I don't know why, or what it is you've got to live up to these days. It's just, we are all who we are, aren't we? And and if you're not that type of personality, it's like, why should that make you not a man?
I must admit, when we were moving to New Zealand 12 years ago, I've told this story before, but I did think that I was going to come to a country that all the men were like, I've said this before, but all the men were like, men were men, and like, women just stay over there and know your place sort of thing. I really did think that that's what it was going to be like. And because the UK is so not like that, isn't it? It's just, we're
yes and no. It depends where you're from.
Well, okay then, maybe that's generalising, but our group of friends are very much, especially when we were in the UK, we had a lot more friends then, but because we were so antisocial. But we were a lot more, we did everything together as a group rather than like, oh, the men do that and the women do that. And I was scared that when we came to New Zealand, that's what it was going to be like. But actually, it's not like that.
Yeah, I think the thing you're saying is like, if you went to a party or a barbecue or something, the men would be over one side of the room and all the women would be over the other side of it. There are places that you go to like that, but it depends on the group of people.
You prefer, and I think this is true of every man actually, you prefer to stand and listen to the women's conversations, don't you, Brian? Because let's face it, women talk about far more interesting stuff.
Hysterectomies and all sorts of things.
You get a group of women on their own and it's going to be a far more interesting conversation. Whenever I eavesdrop on a men's conversation, it's boring. All you want to talk about is the sport.
Well, not necessarily.
It is a bit dry.
Yeah. That's why I struggle with New Zealand, because there's only rugby. They only really talk about rugby. And you say football and they look at you funny and you're like, oh, come on.
Well, you had Ian the other day on the comments. He was saying about the football anyway. Okay, so he stuck up for you, didn't he?
Did he?
Said,
What did Ian say?
Ian on the comments on YouTube, he said, I'm glad to see that Liverpool won.
Oh,
and he
right,
tried to have a little bit of a talk with you about it.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so have we just come to the conclusion then that the New Zealand men, I don't think, and the other thing I was going to say as well, sorry to just keep flabbergasting on about it. Is that a word, flabbergasting on?
Not really, no.
Well, that's my word. Sorry. It must be hard as well if you've got that rugged looking appearance and big. I'm just thinking of Māori guys more than anything now. I don't know why. I'm thinking like they've always big guys and they're the softest. Well, the people I've met are. They're always
they're very family orientated. That's what the softness you're talking about, isn't it? You know,
and really like family or with their kids.
You wouldn't want to mess with them.
No.
But you wouldn't, some of them, because you look at them, you just think,
but
you're a big guy.
Yeah. And because that's their size and just their whole, that look, isn't it? It's like, but do you know what, Brian? Do you know what I've learned in the past?
What?
It's the little ones that are the worst. So they're the little bad uns.
Well, they are. It's always the little guys. Little scousers. Ones that come and headbutt you, hit you on your chin.
Yeah, exactly. The ones you're not expecting to. So no, I just thought we'd just clear that up a little bit. And also, what's the other word that it said? Unintellectual. I don't think that's true either.
No, that's not true at all.
No, because New Zealand men and women, but we'll talk about women in a minute. We're going to get to women, but they're very well travelled, the Kiwis, I think.
Yeah, I think that you tend to see them, and a lot of them are really quite business orientated. They've always got the finger in the pie with something. They want to get a little, a second home very quickly so they can rent that out and do those sort of things, and just try and move on or just get ahead in life, and just there's so many that you meet. There's a friend of mine I know in town, and and you just see them, and we've said this before. They're just dressed in a pair of shorts or something. And he owns half the town, in his commercial properties and things that he's bought and moved on, and always something in the background, like bringing shipping containers in and converting them into shops and things like that. And you just think, wow, really interesting stuff. They just do.
They're
great
just
little
innovative,
ideas,
aren't they?
That innovation that comes out,
Can I ask you a question, Brian? Because you used to.
I better have a drink of tea.
Before we move on, you used to work with that guy, and he's 6'2". I'm not going to name his name. I'm not allowed to say names anymore, but he's a big guy, isn't he? That you used to work with.
Yes.
And if you saw him, you'd think, wow, this guy is like, whoa, he's 6 foot odd too, and he's built like a brick house basically. Yeah. And he always wears his shorts and his big wellies and stuff, his big boots, road bands. Yeah. Now you've got a very close relationship to him, because you used to be, his boss and everything, and you got very close in your business, didn't you? Yeah. And you've kept that relationship going. You often go out for beers and stuff, down the pub and cups of tea, whatever it is you're drinking down there that you don't tell me about. What do you talk about, Brian? Come on.
Well, normally...
Spill the beans.
What do we talk about? Yeah. We normally talk about what's going on, because he still works for the company that I used to be involved with. So it's just what projects are up to and how things are going.
I don't think so.
Why?
I don't think you're just talking about the projects, are you? Get down to the nitty gritty and tell me what men are talking about down the pub.
Well, down the pub? It's just that's mainly it, and what's going on, and just...
Bit of gossip.
Gossip. Yeah. We'll always gossip. Who's going? Yeah, we do. That's what all men talk about, is a bit of gossip.
Really?
Yeah.
What sort of things?
I don't know. I can't think right now. Yeah. What's going on, and who's seeing who, and who's doing what?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's driving what? Who pulled away the fastest at the lights?
Oh yeah, definitely that. Yeah.
But what I said, okay, we will move on now. Yeah. But
how fast the works van can go.
Yeah.
Yeah. The fastest cars in the world are works vans.
I'd love to eavesdrop on your conversation. But what I'm saying is, so two men getting together, one big man, one little small man, you're getting together,
It's nice to know that your wife thinks you're small, isn't it, hey?
And I'm only joking.
I know.
And you're having a nice conversation, a nice easygoing, what was the word? Intellectual,
yes.
Conversation, I think. And an emotional conversation as well, I reckon.
Yeah, but it would be, yeah. Yeah.
I think it is. That's the word, isn't it? Emotional.
Emotional, yeah.
There's lots of emotional chat going on down here in that butler's pub. Right, okay, moving on. Kiwi how do you say this? Ingenuity. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to read you what it said on the internet. This is the idea that New Zealanders display a MacGyver-like ability. Is that the right word, MacGyver?
MacGyver?
To solve any problem, often using unconventional means with whatever happens to be lying around. This is also described as the number 8 mentality, which basically means they can make or fix anything with everyday materials, such as number 8 fencing wire. So that's where that number 8 fixing mentality comes from.
That's the thing. You know, in the UK, it was a wire coat hanger. You know, you could make car aerials out of them, and also it's the same thing. It's that piece of wire.
Oh, guess what? Oh, that's the other thing. You know, we did the we've just done a video where we walked through the park. If you haven't seen it, it's about passing on New Zealand values. Sorry to interrupt. Life skills.
Yeah.
And this guy, Kiwi guy, emails up on the YouTube, on the YouTube comments, saying the best way to unblock a toilet braai, coat hanger. Yes.
Do you know what?
Don't. Yes.
I'll just give you one thing. If you want to scratch the enamel in the toilet, you know,
it might be
or the vitreous china, as I should say, it'll scrape and make a bit of a mess and a mark.
All right, okay.
You know, as that goes round.
Right, okay. So, I just thought that was ingenious. I just thought that, what was the word? Ingenuity.
Just use a mop.
No, because not everyone's got a mop. Okay. So, it is, and I'm not going to dispute that. That is a stereotype, and I don't think that's wrong, to be honest.
No, it's not. Kiwi ingenuity. So when you actually look at a real map, someone sent us it the other day, didn't they? Where you just see New Zealand and you see almost the whole world and you see the Pacific above it. And it's the only sort of island there, like, you know? So it's just that isolation of where we are. Here down unders, as they say, and you know, to get the spare parts and fix something, or just to carry on with the day. You know, there's an amount of times when you've been working on something, and even here, you know, we've got a lifestyle block,
life sentence block,
yeah. And
felt like that this weekend, didn't it?
You know, you'll be down by the creek or something, and something breaks, and you're working with something, and you know, you honestly, you just look around and you're looking for like a piece of fencing wire or a nail on the floor that you can just fix something up and just get it going, and so you don't have to pack up and get back to the shed, like, you know. Yeah. So it's that type of thing, and that's what it is. I remember, you know, being out on, we've got a real old speedboat, and I just remember being out on the other side of a lake over by Rotorua, and I pulled the cover off just because I wanted to check something in the engine, and unknown to me, I pulled and snapped one of the leads which goes to one of the spark plugs. And I went to start the engine back up, didn't know because I put the cover back on, and then it was just like, oh no, the engine was just really misfiring badly, and I'm thinking, oh shit, what's happened? Like, you know, and then you start to think back in your mind, when I was pulling the cover off, it was a bit stiff. So then I go back and I just see this destroyed lead. And, you know, I'm on the boat. I've got a tiny little toolkit just to sort of get you out of trouble a little bit. And then you're just thinking, what can I use to fix this? And I fixed it there and then on the boat. You were with me, weren't you? And it was such a good repair. It's still running on the same thing. Like, you know, because literally I think I had a crimp from a wire or something, and I cut it off with a pair of cutters that I had, and then put it on and crimped it onto the end of the clip.
What a Kiwi man you are.
That was just great. You know, and I just made me feel proud to think, I'll definitely get my citizenship now.
They should do that, shouldn't they?
Isn't it? Yeah.
No,
that should be on the citizenship. If you're coming to New Zealand and you want to be here, you have to pass some ingenuity tests.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It says Kiwi ingenuity is not strictly a male preserve, although it is generally spoken of in relation to men.
Yeah, but it should be the same, because obviously if you're having a problem with your knitting, you'd be able to fix something, wouldn't you?
Oh, you're going to get in trouble. Do you know what? No, because I'm going to save that for the women in a minute. No, for the women. Yeah. But it's nice to know that you are a fixer. You know, that you can do fixing things.
Yes. Yeah, it is. Yeah, but I have been like that, but you just notice
you've always been like that, haven't you?
You know, a lot of people would just fix something up. Yeah, you know, they really can.
So that stereotype, I'm going to say, is probably correct, isn't it?
It is.
Although saying that the newer generations, we don't know. We're still trying to work that out. Like, you know, well, you know, are they going to be? Like I say, we've talked about that before, about the passing the skills on and stuff, but. Yeah, it's just
the
it's
trouble
something
is
that shouldn't be lost.
It's things nowadays, it's like you give something to a child and they break it, because it's electronic. They can't really ever fix it, can they? Like, not unless you're a clever little kid that can fix electronic components.
Yep. Right, number 3, rugby, racing and beer. So New Zealand's male culture, again, sorry guys.
Yeah, but that's a stereotypical thing, isn't it?
Was traditionally said to centre on the 3 R's, which means rugby, racing and beer. And it says, few people today consider the 3 R's to dominate New Zealand's culture. Although rugby and beer are still popular, racing has declined in popularity.
Yeah.
So you tell me, Bri.
Well, obviously that's a very sort of traditional thing with rugby players and racing people is they can't spell because beer starts with a B.
What do you mean?
Well, obviously they're not very clever, are they?
Who? What are you talking about? What's that mean? I didn't get it.
Well, you said the 3 R's.
Yeah, rugby, racing. Oh, yeah. Yeah, why would that be? Why have they said that?
What is that?
Rugby, racing and Rhea.
And Rhea.
But the thing is, Bri, you don't like rugby, you don't like beer, and you don't like racing. So what does it feel like to live in a country knowing that all 3 of those things that you should really be doing, you're not doing them?
And that's what... it's so hard because, they're passionately talking about the rugby game that they've just watched. And I'm like... Oh,
you need to get into it. Get yourself into it.
I can't, I just honestly, I shouldn't really say it.
No, you shouldn't.
I can't really see spending the afternoon in a scrum. It's just for the life of me, I don't know why I'd want to do that.
The other day when you went down to the beer shop, the pub with your friend talking about emotional things, is it true that you both ordered a pina colada?
No. Where did that come from? Pina colada? Me and my mate Si.
You and your mate down there talking about emotional things, drinking your pina colada. The thing is, Brian, I know for a fact, and don't try and deny this on camera, you would rather have a nice little cocktail than a beer with the boys. Don't deny it. Don't deny it.
Well, and talk about what?
Well, it doesn't matter what you're talking about. We all know what you like to talk about.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, let's just put that aside. I don't think, what does it feel like to live in a country when all the boys are out there getting their beers? Sorry, Brian, sorry. Okay, sorry. Let's move on then.
Anyway.
But you're not a beer drinker, are you?
No. I if I've been cutting the grass or, working in the field, I would like a couple of beers because it's more thirst quenching than.
What's your favourite beer in New Zealand? So you can't even think of a name.
Yeah, I can because.
Go on then.
Well, it would be probably Steinlager Pure.
Oh, would it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
probably would.
A Steiny.
Yeah, I used to drink quite a bit of Tui's when I first came here because I'd never really drunk that much Indian pale ale.
Is it Indian Tui?
It's
What?
New Zealand, but it's just called Indian pale ale, IPA.
Why is it called Indian pale ale if it's made in New Zealand?
Because it's a style of beer.
Ah,
it's not lager.
It's a bit silly,
it's
isn't it?
IPA as they call it.
Ah,
yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
No, but that's a big drink over here. Yeah.
So we've covered the rugby. That you're not a big rugby.
We haven't really covered. We
kind of
got pulled away from the rugby because I suppose you don't want
There's
too many
no
comments
way
coming in
on this channel.
It's New Zealand.
You are going to
the best rugby team in the world is the All Blacks.
Yes,
of
it
all
is.
time, without question.
It is. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And the Cardiff Blues that Paul Tito used to play for, fantastic team.
And the old racing thing, I don't get that because apparently it used to be. It's not so popular.
Well, this car
now,
racing is what you're talking about.
No,
What,
horse racing. Betting on the horses, on the GGs.
Oh, they do like that. Yeah. I thought when you said racing, I thought it was, they love car racing. They're huge car enthusiasts over here. Once a year, just literally over the road from us, they close the road off, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
And they race up Kirihara Road, and it's just wow, it's fantastic to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You went racing once in your Mini, didn't you? And went racing around that in that Mini.
Yeah,
thing.
me and
You
Mike
liked
went
it.
racing once. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a great day out. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's and you see some amazing cars, some old classic cars, and you're just like, wow, look at that. It is. And there's some great racing circuits here.
But that's not the racing they're talking about. They're talking about betting on horses.
They're talking about horses.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's just that old style.
It is.
Really, it's like anywhere, isn't it? You look at the Irish and things like that. They loved, drinking and rugby, and it's those sort of I don't know, the older working class of things, is that's what they used to do, and New Zealand was like that. I talked to a bunch of older people, and they just said the bars. They literally were spit and sawdust on the floor, and everybody getting absolutely hammered on a Saturday, and literally them getting thrown out into the streets. That's what the White Hart was like. It was a rough place, apparently.
But that's no different than going down the streets of Preston on a,
that's
is it?
It's no different.
In the
70s,
60s or whatever. I don't know.
You remember when we were in Kilkenny in Ireland? I've never seen so many pubs.
Do you know how many pubs there are in Kilkenny? I'm writing a book, and I wrote about this. Yeah. Do you know how many? 356.
Yeah.
Pubs.
And it's not that big a city, is it? Like, or a town, whatever Kilkenny is. I can't remember. When I was there, it was just like literally.
Oh, no, it might be 156.
Yeah, but you had
a lot anyway.
You had pubs next to each other.
I know.
Next door to each other. Different pubs completely.
It'd be great, that, wouldn't it? Because you'd come out of one and then straight into the other.
Oh, you'd just literally roll down the street.
Oh, and your pina colada like that.
Yeah, I'd be 2 pina coladas.
Right, okay, moving on then. So, New Zealand women. I like this one. I like this. Right, the Kiwi female. There are a few stereotypes surrounding New Zealand women, and these stereotypes are not as strong as those involving men, but it is said that the New Zealand women are sometimes thought to be more independent than women elsewhere in the world.
Wow.
New Zealand being the first country in the world to give the woman vote, and the only one to have all its...
Good on you, New Zealand.
Yeah. All its important positions of state power simultaneously filled by women, as seen by evidence of this. Right. So, yeah, I reckon that is true.
Well, since you've come to New Zealand, you've become a lot more bossy, haven't you?
There's just something I know I can finally have my word now. There's something about the New Zealand women that they have this air of strong independence. You won't come here and find a wet willy sort of thing. So, it's,
what?
Like that, I can't do it. Yeah. I'm silly. It's just, you will not find that. I've never, ever, ever come across it.
No, you don't. You don't really come across that, do you? Yeah.
It's not cute. It's like, in some countries, it's like, oh, it's cute for the girls to be, oh, I don't know, sort of, that sort of, it's just
that dumb blondie type.
Yeah,
person.
It's just not. It's just not the thing, and it's really, really refreshing. It can feel a bit intimidating. I'm not gonna lie. It can feel a bit intimidating.
Yeah.
Because, I'm going to read you what it says here. It says, lack of femininity. It says, women in New Zealand are supposedly unfeminine. For example, they wear masculine clothing and spend little time on makeups and other forms of personal grooming. And they can basically go around doing masculine tasks, such as car maintenance and playing rugby. The reason I said it can feel a bit intimidating sometimes is Kiwi women seem to just be able to get in there and do it. It's just like that.
Yeah, but it's that you look at the old farm mentality, isn't it? I mean, Taranaki, where we are, it's a huge dairy farm county or area, region in New Zealand, and so there are a lot of farmers and things like that. And so, and some farm girls they're big, big and strong.
Strong. Well, you'd have to be working on a farm, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You couldn't just be some little featherweight, could you?
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that about the New Zealand women. I just think they haven't. I don't want to say. And the thing about them being unfeminine, no, that's not true.
No, it's not. You go look at all the feminine clothes shops in New Plymouth.
But it's almost as if there's better things to do with your time than spend hours getting dolled up. Yeah, that's the impression that I get. It's almost like
I always think that New Zealand women are quite sporty, no matter what sort of age group, they're out on bikes running around.
Yeah.
They're always wanting to do something
Yeah.
And
there's a huge feeling of equality in New Zealand, isn't there? I think so. It's not that.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it, but it's not, I know I've just said it, but it's not that, oh, only the men can do that and we can't do it. It doesn't feel like that
Yeah,
ever.
it doesn't at all. Like, you get a bunch of cyclists and they're not just all men. Like, you will get groups of men and women, but it's like, let's get on and do it. And, you go and walk up the mountain. It's not just men that go up there, like the old days, like, where, Sherpa Tenzing and Edmund Hillary were climbing up the mountain. It's not. It's like, it's just everybody's doing it, aren't they?
Yeah. And also, I just wanted to shout out to, we've got Rachel Hunter. Rachel Hunter is the famous model. She's a Kiwi.
Yep. All right.
Beautiful, gorgeous woman. Like when you're going, oh, they're not feminine. I know. And Ashley Good. I was looking up all like the top, the beautiful New Zealand women that Ashley Good had made it as a top Parisian model. She went to Paris and she went in Vogue and everything. She was discovered standing at a bus stop in Auckland, and you just think, I just want you to be clear that stereotype of Kiwi women, New Zealand women is
but it goes along like we're saying with the men, isn't it? Like you imagine everyone is like that. It's that Bruce and Sheila type feeling, isn't it? Like and
don't get me wrong. There are remember we hired that digger that time, and and his wife was very strong.
She got on the digger and showed me how to use
the
digger.
I know, and that was like, oh wow, I would not mess with you. It's just that feeling of. Yeah. But and I wanted to tell you about. Do you know who Jean Batten is?
No.
You don't know? You will know when I tell you because
you've been on the internet.
Yes, I know, but we saw this when we went to that museum. She was a famous aviatrix, and she was born in Rotorua in 1909, and she flew solo. Yes. Remember this? From England to Australia in 1934. I can't remember when we went to a museum once and we were reading about it. I can't remember where it was.
What's the other one? Amelia Earhart, a bit like that. You mean? Yeah, that type of person.
Yeah, she's an aviatrix. She flew solo from England to Australia. Wow. Guess how long it took her? Don't look.
I would say it would.
Go on. How long?
What year was it?
Are you intelligent or not?
Well, I'd just like to know what plane that she would have been flying. Was it a biplane or was it
a plane that she'd made, obviously, out of some coat hangers? Yeah. And she got in it and flew from England.
Bit of help from Bert.
Yeah. So how long? How long do you think?
Probably 3 weeks.
Nope.
Go on then.
No, have another guess.
6 weeks.
No. 14 days. Hang on, where is it? 14 days and 22 hours.
Wow.
14 days. That's quick,
great.
Isn't it?
Yeah, because you'd think she'd be landing every, I don't know what size plane she had, but I don't know how many, you just got to think about hopping across, the Indian and Pacific Oceans, haven't you, to get down here.
So there you have it then. So that's your stereotypical New Zealand people.
Yeah.
So I think we've covered that, haven't we?
Yeah, and that's what you think. You see all these stereotypical things, and I think you've got to take them with a pinch of salt, haven't you, these days?
Yeah.
Because the world's opened up. We have the internet in New Zealand, so we can see what's going on in your country. We know what you're like. Yeah.
If you want to really find out about New Zealand people, go and watch our video where me and Brian take you on a walk and we talk about New Zealand kindness and whether New Zealand people are kind. It's a great video. Like I say, we just discuss in depth about what we really think New Zealand people are like and whether they are kind or not. So hop on over and go and watch that video.
Yeah.
But until then, we'll see you on the other side when you come and watch that with us. But until then, we're going to say goodbye and thank you so much for watching.
Yep. And kia kaha, stay strong as you have to do.
Yeah.
And kia ka, kia u.
Yeah, kia u. Stay true.
Stay true.
Yeah. Love that. Our friend Mahuta told us that. And it's a beautiful, beautiful saying. I absolutely love it. Just want to say as well, big thank you. Guys, you are bloody awesome. You really are awesome. All the comments and support you give us, we're blown away by it every week. It's absolutely lovely. YouTube and listening on the podcast, however you choose to have our content. Thank you so much. It really...
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
We do.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Yeah.
Hit the subscribe button and all those sort of things.
Yeah.
And you'll be notified then.
Yeah. So let's go over and watch our New Zealand people kind.
Yep.
See you soon.
Stay with us and watch it.
Bye.
See you now. Bye.
Hello. Daddy, I love him. Mother thanks you. All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up. Hello.